Hello again. This is day 31 of our Reading Through the Bible Together in a Year series. Today we're covering Leviticus chapters 9 through 12. Now, remember, we are in this book called Leviticus, which has a lot to do with how Israel, and specifically Israel's priests, are supposed to behave in dealing with this relationship between God and the people, with the mediator of the tabernacle and the priests. So there's a lot here, but they're at Mount Sinai. God is giving them instructions so that people can make use of the tabernacle. So 9 through 12, let's get into it. And on the 8th day, Moshe sent for Aaron and his sons and the responsible men of Israel. And he said to Aaron, "Take a young ox for a sin offering and a male sheep for a burnt offering without a mark, and make an offering of them before the Lord. And say to the children of Israel, Take a he-goat for a sin offering, and a young ox and a lamb in their first year without any mark on them for a burnt offering, and an ox and a male sheep for peace offerings to be put to death before the Lord, and a meal offering mixed with oil. For this day you are to see the Lord." And they took the things ordered by Moshe before the tent of meeting, and all the people came near, waiting before the Lord. And Moshe said, "This is what the Lord has said you are to do, and you will see the glory of the Lord." And Moshe said to Aaron, "Come near to the altar and make your sin offering and your burnt offering to take away your sin and the sin of the people, and make the people's offering to take away their sin, as the Lord has given orders." So Aaron came near to the altar and put to death the ox for the sin offering for himself. And the sons of Aaron gave him the blood, and he put his finger in the blood and put it on the horns of the altar, draining out the blood at the base of the altar. But the fat and the kidneys and the fat on the liver of the sin offering were burned by him on the altar as the Lord gave orders to Moshe. And the flesh and the skin were burned with fire outside this tent circle. And he put to death the burned offering, and Aaron's sons gave him the blood, and he put some of it on and around the altar. And they gave him the parts of the burned offering in their order, and the head to be burned on the altar. And the inside parts and the legs, when they had been washed with water, were burned on the burned offering on the altar. And he made an offering for the people, and took the goats of the sin offering for the people, and put it to death, offering it for sin in the same way as the first. And he took the burned offering, offering it in the ordered way, and he put the meal offering before the Lord, and taking some of it in his hand, he had it burned on the altar, separately from the burned offering of the morning. And he put to death the ox and the sheep, which were the peace offerings for the people. And Aaron's sons gave him the blood, and he put some of it on and around the altar. And as for the fat of the ox, and the fat tail of the sheep, and the fat covering the inside parts, and the kidneys, and the fat on the liver, they put the fat on the breasts, and the fat was burned on the altar. And Aaron took the breasts and the right leg, waving them for a wave offering before the Lord, as Moshe gave orders. And Aaron, lifting up his hands to the people, gave them a blessing, and he came down from offering the sin offering, and the burned offering, and the peace offerings. And Moshe and Aaron went into the tent of meeting, and came out and gave the people a blessing, and the glory of the Lord was seen by all the people. And fire came out from before the Lord, burning up the offering on the altar and the fat. And when all the people saw it, they gave a loud cry, falling down on their faces. And Nadav and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took their vessels and put fire in them, and perfume, burning strange fire before the Lord, which he had not given them orders to do. And fire came out from before the Lord, burning them up and causing their destruction before the Lord. Then Moshe said to Aaron, "This is what the Lord said, I will be holy in the eyes of all those who come near to me, and I will be honored before all the people." And Aaron said nothing. And Moshe sent for Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Uzziel, the brother of Aaron's father, and said to them, "Come near and take your brothers away from before the holy place, outside the tent circle." So they came and took them in their coats outside the tent circle, as Moshe had said. And Moshe said to Aaron and to Eleazar and Ithamar his sons, "Do not let your hair be loose, and give no signs of grief, so that death may not overtake you, and his wrath come on all your people. But let there be weeping among your brothers and all the house of Israel for this burning of the Lord's fire. And do not go out from the door of the tent of meeting, or death will come to you, for the holy oil of the Lord is on you." And they did as Moshe said, and the Lord said to Aaron, "Take no wine or strong drink, you or your sons with you, when you go into the tent of meeting, that it may not be the cause of death to you. This is an order forever through all your generations." and make a division between the holy and the common, and between the unclean and the clean, teaching the children of Israel all the laws which the Lord has given them by the hand of Moshe. And Moshe said to Aaron and to Eleazar and Ithamar, his sons, who were still living, Take the rest of the meal offering from the offerings of the Lord made by fire, and take it for your food without leaven at the side of the altar, for it is most holy. It is to be for your food in a holy place, because it is your right and your son's right from the offerings of the Lord made by fire, for so am I ordered. And the breast which is waved and the leg which is lifted up on high, you are to take as your food in a clean place, you and your sons and your daughters with you, for they are given to you as your right and your son's right from the peace offerings of the children of Israel. Let them take the breast which is waved and the leg which is lifted up on high, with the fat of the burnt offering to be waved for a wave offering before the Lord. And this will be for you and for your sons with you, for a right forever, as the Lord has given orders. And Moshe was looking for the goat of the sin offering, but it was burned. And he was angry with Eleazar and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron, who were still living, saying, Why did you not make a meal of the sin offering in the holy place? For it is most holy, and he has given it to you, so that the sin of the people may be put on it, to take away their sin before the Lord. See, its blood was not taken into the holy place. Certainly it was right for you to have taken it as food in the holy place, as I gave orders. And Aaron said to Moshe, You have seen that today they have made their sin offering and their burnt offering before the Lord, and such things as these have come on me. If I had taken the sin offering as food today, would it have been pleasing to the Lord? And after hearing this, Moshe was no longer angry. And the Lord said to Moshe and Aaron, Say to the children of Israel, These are the living things which you may have for food among all the beasts on the earth. You may have as food any beast which has a division in the horn of its foot, and whose food comes back into its mouth to be crushed again. But, at the same time, of those beasts you may not take for food the camel, because its food comes back, but the horn of its foot is not parted in two. It is unclean to you. And the rock badger, for the same reason, is unclean to you. And the hare, because the horn of its foot is not parted in two, is unclean to you. And the pig is unclean to you, because though the horn of its foot is parted, its food does not come back. Their flesh may not be used for food, and their dead bodies may not even be touched. They are unclean to you. These you may have for food of all the living things in the water. Anything living in the water, in the seas or the rivers, which has special parts for swimming and skin formed of thin plates, may be used for food. All other things living and moving in the water, in the sea or in the rivers, are a disgusting thing to you. They may not be used for food, and their dead bodies are disgusting to you. Anything in the water which has no special parts for swimming and no thin plates on its skin is disgusting to you. And among birds these are to be disgusting to you, and not to be used for food. The eagle and the vulture and the osprey, and the kite and the falcon and birds of that sort, every raven and birds of that sort, and the ostrich and the nighthawk and the seahawk and birds of that sort, and the little owl and the cormorant and the great owl, and the water hen and the pelican and the vulture, the stork and the heron, the birds of that sort, and the hoopoe and the bat. Every winged four-footed thing which goes on the earth is disgusting to you. But the winged four-footed things, those which have long legs for jumping on the earth, you may have for food, such as all the different sorts of locust. But all other winged four-footed things which go on the earth are disgusting to you. By these you will be made unclean. Anyone touching their dead bodies will be unclean until evening. Whoever takes away the dead body of one of them is to have his clothing washed, and will be unclean until evening. Every beast, in the horn of whose foot there is not a complete division, and whose foot does not come back, is unclean to you. Anyone touching one of these will be unclean. Any four-footed beast which goes on the ball of its foot is unclean to you. Anyone touching the dead body of one of these will be unclean until evening. Anyone who takes away the dead body of one of these is to have his clothing washed, and be unclean until evening. And these are unclean to you among things which go low down on the earth, the weasel and the mouse, and the great lizard, and animals of that sort, and the ferret, and the land crocodile, and the lizard, and the sand lizard, and the chameleon. All these are unclean to you. Anyone touching them when they are dead will be unclean until evening. The dead body of any of these, falling on anything, will make that thing unclean. If it is any vessel of wood, or clothing, or skin, or bag, whatever it is, if it is used for any purpose, it will have to be put into water, and will be unclean until evening. After that, it will be clean. And if one of them gets into any vessel of earth, whatever is in the vessel will be unclean, and the vessel will have to be broken. Any food in it, and anything on which water from it comes, will be unclean. Any drink taken from such a vessel will be unclean. Any part of the dead body of one of these, falling on anything, will make it unclean. If it is an oven or a cooking pot, it will have to be broken. They are unclean and will be unclean to you. But at the same time, a fountain or a place where water is stored for use will be clean. But anyone touching their dead bodies will be unclean. If any part of the dead body of one of these gets onto any seed for planting, it is clean. But if water is put on the seed, and any part of the dead body gets onto it, it will be unclean to you. And if any beast which may be used for food comes to a natural death, anyone touching its dead body will be unclean until evening. And he who makes use of any part of its body for food is to have his clothing washed and be unclean until evening. And anyone taking away its body is to have his clothing washed and be unclean until evening. Everything which goes flat on its body on the earth is disgusting and is not to be used for food. Whatever goes on its stomach or on 4 feet or has a great number of feet, even all those going flat on the earth, may not be used for food, for they are disgusting. You are not to make yourselves disgusting with anything which goes above flat on the earth. You may not make yourselves unclean with them in such a way that you are not holy to me, for I am the Lord your God. For this reason make and keep yourselves holy, for I am holy. You are not to make yourselves unclean with any sort of thing which goes about flat on the earth, for I am the Lord who took you out of the land of Egypt to be your God, so you be holy, for I am holy. This is the law about beasts and birds and every living thing moving in the waters and every living thing which goes flat on the earth, marking out the unclean from the clean and the living thing which may be used for food from that which may not. And the Lord said to Moshe, Say to the children of Israel, if a woman is with child and gives birth to a male child, she will be unclean for 7 days, as when she is unwell. And on the 8th day let him be given circumcision, and she will be unclean for 33 days, until the flow of her blood is stopped. No holy thing may be touched by her, and she may not come into the holy place, until the days for making her clean are ended. But if she gives birth to a female child, then she will be unclean for 2 weeks, as when she is unwell, and she will not be completely clean for 66 days. And when the days are ended for making her clean for a son or a daughter, let her take to the priest at the door of the tent of meeting a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a dove for a sin offering. And the priest is to make an offering of it before the Lord and take away her sin, and she will be made clean from the flow of her blood. This is the law for a woman who gives birth to a male or a female. And if she has not money enough for the lamb, then let her take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering, and the priest will take away her sin, and she will be clean. So 2 major points that we should probably talk about after today's reading. The first is Nadab and Abihu. Now, I grew up hearing the interpretation of this story as an equality with, in modern practices, that you should worship exactly how God dictates worship, because see, look what happened to Nadab and Abihu. They offered strange fire and they were killed. Well, I don't think that's good reasoning for that argument. You're welcome to think that, and I don't hold it against you. I understand it, actually. But I don't think it's good reasoning, specifically because, one, God is doing a new thing in this book of Leviticus, right? He is appointing a nation as a light to the other nations, and he's specifically appointing priests within this nation to be separate, to be holy, to be specific, because it is up to them to provide intercession between God and the people, right? And so if Nadab and Abihu are going in and offering strange fire, one, we don't know what that means by strange fire, not really, and two, I think it's more than just strange fire that's the issue here, because the immediate response after they die is not God talking to Aaron, it's Moses. And Moses says, the Lord will be holy among the nations. He will be he refuses to not be shown as holy. Among those who approach me, I will be proved holy. In the sight of all the people, I will be honored. Right? So this is Moses saying, remember, God doesn't let anything happen when people approach him. His holiness is, toxic is the wrong word, but dangerous. Just like the sun, the sun is a good thing and it provides all kinds of stuff, growth, vitamins, whatever, but you get too close to it, you burn up, right? God's holiness is a similar concept in this understanding. And so Moses is the one that says that. But then when God actually responds to Aaron, he says to Aaron, don't take wine, you or your sons, do not take wine or strong drink with you into the tabernacle. And so I think there's something more than just strange fire. I think the mixture of the strong drink and strange fire, it sounds like Nadab and Abihu were trying to bring in some sort of pagan ritual that they understood from a different context, similar to the golden calf incident, right? Making God in their image, making sacrifice and temple worship in their image. And God makes a big deal out of it for a specific reason. It's not very often in the Bible that somebody does something bad and God immediately strikes them dead. It does happen, but in specific circumstances, and this is one of them. So I wish that you think on those things. The other thing I wanted to bring attention to, and I can make this quick, is that as we get into chapters 11 and 12, and in the future we'll get into this will happen more and more, are these laws about cleanliness, clean and unclean. And I think one of the issues that people in Jesus' time also had, which is why Jesus critiques it, and Peter and Paul and their conversations around the Gentiles, is that cleanliness and uncleanliness is not equivalent to sinful and unsinful, right? If a doctor delivers a baby, he becomes unclean. Not because he's done something wrong, it's because the process of delivering the baby is unclean, right? There's several places that we just read today where somebody will do something and they will be unclean and will be unclean until evening, and their clothes must be washed. Like, it has a lot to do with hygiene and bringing Israel out of the dirty animalistic worldview that they have, where all things go and raw meat is fine and blood is a food and things like that. So also consider that as we go on in the future. Clean and unclean, it's not bad and good, it's clean and unclean, and you have to remember that. So think on these things today. I know this is a long outro to the video, but there's plenty of good stuff happening in Leviticus. A lot of things to think about, a lot of stuff we don't understand from 3,500 years in the future across the continent. Good stuff to meditate on, though. I hope you have a wonderful day.